On August 2nd, 2023, Oliver Stratton was riding his bike through his neighborhood in Timnath, just as he'd done dozens of times before. These are calm residential streets, and Oliver loved to ride his bike. On August 2nd, he just got done visiting a friend and is now riding south on Saddlehorn Drive back to his house. It was a normal day for Amy Weiss as well. She'd just come from a dance class in Fort Collins and was also headed home. She was driving east on River Pass Road. The day was calm, bright, dry, clear. You wouldn't have known it from any other day than the summer of 2023. As Oliver got to that intersection, he came to a complete stop. He then looked and proceeded, riding his own bike, wearing his blue helmet, his favorite color. Megan Mayer, another resident of the neighborhood, was also approaching that intersection, going east on River Pass, and saw Oliver right there as anyone could. Megan came to a stop before proceeding, turning north on Saddlehorn. The last she saw, both her and Oliver were proceeding safely, calmly, normally through that intersection. The car behind Miss Mayer was not so cautious. That car was driven by Amy Weiss. When Miss Weiss approached that same intersection just behind Miss Mayer, she collided with Oliver, with so little warning to Miss Weiss that she didn't even attempt to brake. Oliver was thrown from his bike. People from the neighborhood rushed to do CPR. He was rushed to the hospital, but despite the heroic efforts of doctors and paramedics, Oliver died. Now, Mr. Gavaldon doesn't have to tell me his trial strategy, but I expect you'll actually hear we agree on quite a few facts about this case. I don't expect Mr. Gavaldon is going to argue about when or where this happened. I don't expect he's going to argue about who's driving. In fact, Miss Weiss is on law enforcement body-worn camera right at the scene saying, yes, she was the driver. Nor will you hear Miss Duhan or myself argue that this was intentional or purposeful. Miss Weiss is also on that body-worn camera looking absolutely distraught, crying, screaming. There's no doubt that this is an absolute tragedy. You're not going to hear anyone dispute that. The video shows that, indeed, Miss Weiss seemed cooperative at first. She stayed on that scene. She answered law enforcement questions. She provided a blood sample to show that she was not impaired. She authorized law enforcement to search her car and to search her phone. This was certainly not a purposeful act on Miss Weiss's part. This is a careless driving causing death trial. And you will hear the evidence explain that while she did not intend to harm Oliver, her conscious disregard for the safety of others on the roadway, for the complexities of driving down the roadway, that she was responsible for Oliver's death. But the distraught and cooperative Miss Weiss that you see in those initial body-worn cameras is far from the full story in this case. Because what you'll hear is that while Miss Weiss was headed from Fort Collins back to Timnath, she was engaged in multiple telephone and text message conversations that lasted almost the entire duration of that drive. She was reading, she was responding, she was processing, and her attention was most certainly highly divided at best. The evidence will show that Miss Weiss sent an outgoing text message just seconds before hitting Oliver. Her conversations were not an emergency. They were not about mission critical facts that she had to deal with right then and there. They were about travel plans and dinner plans. Things that, while not urgent, take your attention off the task at hand. Yet still, that is not the full story. Because you will finally hear that in the minutes after hitting Oliver, in the minutes while a 10-year-old boy lay dying in the middle of River Pass Drive, Miss Weiss was busy deleting those text messages, going in affirmatively to her phone and deleting the evidence of the crime. What in the law folks would call consciousness of guilt, but what in normal parlance we might just call covering your tracks. So you'll learn at the conclusion of all this evidence, it is not just law enforcement or prosecutors that thought that her attention was divided, that thought that she was careless, or that she was responsible for Oliver's death. It was also Miss Weiss who believed that. Miss Weiss who understood in that very moment the culpability she bore because of those text messages. So much so that she affirmatively went in to delete those. And so at the conclusion of this evidence, I'm going to ask you to find Miss Weiss guilty of careless driving causing death that killed Oliver Stratton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gavlin. You have 10 minutes.
Before I start, Judge, I'd like the commission to move the...
Feel free. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Gavlin, the microphone's pointing the other direction. Yes. Thank you.
Is this okay?
It works.
This case is not about carelessness. And this case is not about distraction. What you're going to hear about today is that this case is about an unavoidable, tragic accident that affected the lives of two families. You're going to come to hear that the story of two people in this case, the story of Oliver Stratton and the story of Amy Weiss, my client, and how those lives came and crossed on August 2nd, 2023 at the intersection of River Pass Road and Saddlehorn Drive. Because, ladies and gentlemen, at that intersection on that date, that afternoon, Ollie Stratton lost his life. But Amy's life was tragically changed forever. Now, who was Ollie Stratton? You're going to come to hear that he was 10 years old. You're going to hear that he comes with a family. He had two brothers and a sister that he lived with his parents, Rod and Clarissa Stratton. And they lived in that neighborhood where that intersection is. And in fact, that's one of the ways you get home is through that intersection to his house. You're also going to find out about my client, Amy Weiss. You're going to find out that she is a wife. You're going to find out that she is the mother of 3 children. You're also going to find out that she's a school teacher. And you're going to find out that she teaches the 6th grade, where she teaches math and science at a middle school called Lesher, middle school. You're also going to find out that she's a court-appointed special advocate for foster children. You're going to find out that she coaches volleyball and softball. You're also going to find out that she's an avid cyclist as well. And like Ollie Stratton, the both of them were looking forward at that date and time to the new coming school year so that she could teach new students and so Ollie could be with his friends at his elementary school. Now, you're going to find out that during that day, it was a very full day for Amy Weiss. She had went on an 18 to 20 mile bike ride that early morning. You're going to find out that she, even after that, participated in what they call pickleball. You'll hear about that. But you also know, we're going to find out that she had planned to meet with her best friend, Jamie Drage, after pickleball, and that she did some shopping that morning all the way until the afternoon. You're also going to find out that that afternoon she went to a dance class at a place called the Pulse in Fort Collins. And it was after all those activities that she planned to go home to her residence that also crosses that intersection that we're going to talk about in Timnath, Colorado. Now, you're also going to find out that, yes, on that way home, she had done some talking and some texting on her cell phone. More importantly, you're going to find out about this intersection. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's going to be very important in this case, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about the intersection of River Pass Road and Saddlehorn Drive. Now, River Pass Road goes east and west in the Timnath area. River Pass Road has a speed mileage. It's 40 miles per hour. And you're going to find out that it's one of the main thoroughfares between the neighborhoods that separate it. And you're also going to find out that all the other roads are 25 miles per hour. Now, Saddlehorn, which is one of those roads that has a 25 mile per hour, goes north and south. You're also going to find out that there is a crosswalk that goes east and west on Saddlehorn. But what's going to be very important, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's no crosswalk at River Pass Road that goes north and south. Now, when Amy Weiss was going on her way home, just like Oliver Stratton was going on his way home, you will find out that Amy Weiss was making a left-hand turn from Three Bell Parkway onto River Pass Road. And she would be going in the east direction. And when she was making that turn to get onto River Pass Road, she was approximately a quarter of a mile from the intersection where this accident happened. Now, you're also going to find out that when she was making that left-hand turn a quarter of a mile away, Oliver Stratton was already at the intersection that we're going to be talking about of River Pass Road and Saddlehorn Drive. Now, what you're going to also find out that Amy had made her last text and use of her phone 11 seconds before the accident. Not just seconds before, but 11 seconds before the accident. You're also going to find out that as she was proceeding up Riverside Road, there was already another vehicle way in front of her. You're going to find out that that vehicle was driven by Megan Mayer. Megan Mayer was driving a 2009 Lexus, and she was on her way home as well. You're going to find out that Miss Mayer was driving ahead of Amy on Riverside Road. You're going to find out that she was going to make a left-hand turn at that intersection. So she's in the left lane, while my client is in the right lane. Now, when Miss Mahan was going to make that left-hand turn to go left, she observed young Ollie at that corner of that intersection. She wasn't sure if he was going to cross it her way when she's making her left-hand turn, or whether he was going to go across Riverside Road. And so what you're going to hear from her is that she waited for him to make a decision. And when he decided that he was going to cross River Pass Road, she decided at the same time to make her left-hand turn. Now, the reason that becomes very important is that Amy Weiss is coming up east on River Pass Road. And what you're going to find out that clearly at the time that Miss Mahan is making that left-hand turn, at the same time that little Ollie Stratton decides to go across the road, Miss Mahan's vehicle blocks the view of my client. So she never saw him. You're also going to see that she also, because of the manner in which she made her left-hand turn, she blocked the view for Ollie Stratton. And Ollie Stratton did not see Amy's vehicle. You're also going to hear testimony in the reconstruction of this accident that from 6 to 2 seconds prior to the accident, Amy's view of Ollie is completely obstructed. It is completely obstructed by Miss Mayer's vehicle in the left-hand lane. You're also going to hear testimony, ladies and gentlemen, that in order for Amy to see little Ollie on his bicycle, she would need a minimum of 3 to 4 seconds before impact to avoid the collision. Thank you. Amy's first opportunity to see Ollie was 1.5 seconds before the accident. In essence, ladies and gentlemen, the testimony and the evidence, the reconstruction of this case is going to tell you that she never had a chance to see him until it was too late and could not have stopped in time. In essence, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Ollie never saw my client's vehicle because of the obstruction of Miss Mahan's vehicle, and he never had a chance to stop either. In essence, ladies and gentlemen, this was a tragic, unavoidable accident, and it has nothing to do with the erasing of a text that occurred 11 seconds before the accident. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you, after all of the evidence, especially the scientific evidence in this case is presented, to bring back the only just and fair verdict that a tragic accident occurred and it was not the fault of my client, Amy Weiss. Thank you.